Thank you. Welcome. This is the Land Use and Livability Subcommittee meeting for January. And I think we will begin with the minutes. The subcommittee is here. So I need a motion for the approval of the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? It carries unanimously. The next is our consent agenda, items 2 through 7. Does anyone on the subcommittee wish to pull any of the consent items? Then can I get a motion? Thank you.
Motion to approve?
Chairwoman,
Second.
this is Matt. I think we may have a speaker on item 5.
Oh, sorry. My notes show that he just was in support of it.
Oh.
I apologize. I guess I read that incorrectly. So item 5 is Jim McPherson. Did you want to speak?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Good.
I didn't realize you wanted to speak.
No problem.
I
One
knew you
here
would
just-
support this.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson. Yeah, I'm just here to answer any questions on behalf of the Arizona Preservation Foundation. We're excited about the project, and we're getting through the renovations with our partner. So I'm available for questions.
Perfect. I don't think there are any, and so I think we'll keep it on consent. We had a motion and a second to approve consent. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? I hear none, so the consent passes unanimously. And again, I apologize, Jim. We have 3 information items, 8, 9, and 10, and we do have 2 speakers on item 10. The first is Megan Hernandez. Is she on the line?
1 second, Chairwoman.
And this item deals with the Head Start Birth to 5 program 2019-2020 school readiness outcomes and program information report.
She is not on the line, Chairwoman.
Okay, and the other speaker was Walt Gray in support. Is Walt there?
He is also not on the line.
All right, well, any questions on the info from the subcommittee? Okay, well, we'll move to item 11, and I did get a request to continue, remove this item actually, as the Parks Department needs some more time to do some additional research. And so we will hear that at a later date. Thank you. The next item is Parks Update. Welcome, Cynthia.
Good morning.
Please go ahead. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee. I'm Cynthia Aguilar, Acting Parks and Recreation Director. I'm happy to be here with you today to provide you with a parks update. This item was requested by Councilwoman Guardado at the last subcommittee meeting. The Parks Department provides residents and visitors with more than 200 miles of trails in desert parks and mountain preserve land, 185 parks, 32 community centers, 29 pools, and 8 city golf courses. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic and to comply with the governor's executive orders, use of various park amenities and facilities have been intermittently closed since April 2nd. Per the City Council vote on December 2nd, All athletic field reservations and tournaments at facilities managed by the city's Parks Department were canceled effective December 3rd. Additional amenities currently closed include ramadas, picnic tables, fitness equipment, basketball and volleyball courts, and sports complexes. The closures and cancellations are in place until the COVID-19 community spread returns to the moderate level. While some amenities have closed intermittently, many other outdoor parks and recreation amenities have remained open throughout the pandemic. Currently, park open space, trails, golf, pickleball and tennis courts, playgrounds, and restrooms are open. As you may expect, we have seen an increase in usage of our outdoor recreation amenities, such as our trails, our golf courses, and our Walk Phoenix walking paths. Last year, over 6.2 million people visited our trails, which is an increase of more than 30% over 2019. Golf courses also experienced an increase of 23% in the number of rounds of golf played at our courses. Similarly, our Walk Phoenix paths saw an increase of 30% over 2019. To encourage park users to use our parks safely and adhere to CDC guidelines, signage such as these on the screen were placed in our parks. The green signage on the left reminds park users to wear masks, stay 6 feet apart, bring their own wipes and sanitizer, and not to come visit the park if they're experiencing any symptoms. The orange signage provides users with information on what amenities are currently closed. Information is provided in both English and Spanish. Staff also continues to monitor our parks on a daily basis and educate users on the importance of complying with our rules and the CDC guidelines. During these challenging times, our staff continues to do a good job finding new ways to provide additional recreational opportunities. One example is by launching a series of virtual programs, many of which are free. Programs are for children, teens, and adults, and include fitness, games, dance, art, adaptive recreation, Phoenix Teens activities, and virtual tours. More than 2,500 people have participated in our virtual programs since we launched them. This photo shows some of the Phoenix Teens activities that took place last year. We are looking forward to expanding our virtual programming further in 2021. Additionally, the department is hosting youth day camps at 6 public housing sites and for children of city employees at 4 of our community centers. The program is free and serves children and teens 6 to 17 years of age, and it's open Monday through Friday. All participants, as well as staff, are required to wear masks. In addition to providing recreation activities, the programs also support distance learning. As you can see in these photos, staff help children who may be participating in school virtually log into their classes and assist them with their schoolwork. On average, 60 to 80 children participate in these programs each week. And this concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Oh, yes,
Yes,
Councilwoman.
thank you. So my questions, thank you for that, Cynthia. That was really great. First and foremost, I just want to thank you for being incredibly transparent with our office and talking to us about what is happening and what's not happening and the type of support that's needed right now in the Parks Department. But I guess one of my criticisms, I guess, would be is the signage at the parks. Like, I've seen the signage at the parks, but I think it's too small. I think that, people walk right by it, and I just don't think that it's big enough. I think we just need something that's going to catch people's attention, something that's going to make them read the sign. I know that when we were at Oso Park the other day, like, I just walked by the sign and I didn't notice it. And then I had to go back to the park. It's like, wait a minute, do we have a sign in this park? So they're really small. And I think specifically out in Maryville in the west side, I think we have to continue to educate people on this, on social distancing, especially right now that the playgrounds are open and that children are out in the playgrounds and they're in need of talking to other children. I think it's even more important to have maybe bigger signage out in the parks. I think would be a good investment, and just a little bit more. I mean, I had no idea of a lot of these virtual programs, and I'm not sure how do we get that more out to folks. I know that there's a lot of people that need help with their children and helping them with some of their schoolwork. And I'm grateful for the 84 children that are getting help, but I do think that, there is a huge need. And I think I don't know exactly what type of help do you need, or do you think that you have the right resources to put more, I think more communication out there to folks. I'm not exactly sure if there's something that we can mail folks, or how is it that we can get it out, especially in our low income communities, that these services are actually there and that people could take advantage of them.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Councilwoman Guardado. Great feedback. On the signage, we'd be happy to evaluate that or reevaluate that and look how we can increase signage. We are working currently on increasing the amount of signage that is out there right now and trying to identify the most used areas in our parks. So your point is well taken, and we agree that we want to have the sign be the signage as visible as possible, so that people know what the rules are and comply. So we'd be happy to work on that. And then on the second point of the day camps, just for clarification, the programs that we are currently offering at the housing sites are for those families who live in our public housing programs. So it's only currently open to them. And for the programs at our community centers, those are currently only open to City of Phoenix employees for their children. So they're not open widely to the public, but also to your point, we could certainly continue to send reminders to City of Phoenix employees to remind them that we have that benefit and that we do offer that. So we can definitely work on increasing communication about that.
Perfect, great, thank you. Those were my questions. I think for the most part, you and I have had conversations, and I think you've addressed a lot of the things that we've talked about, but I really appreciate this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Those are great suggestions. I might piggyback on the virtual programs. Maybe we could work with the school districts so that they can push the information forward to their students. Just a thought. I know we have a liaison to our various school districts, so maybe we can work with him and get something out. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yes, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee. I'm sorry I didn't address that point. Yes, I think partnering with the school districts would be a great way to further communicate information on our virtual programs, and also to identify any other needs and see how we can expand it further this year.
Perfect. So are there any other comments? Questions?
I think if I can just add to
Oh,
that,
yeah.
I'm sorry. If I can just add to that, Cynthia, I mean, it might be a good idea to maybe even reach out to the brewers. I know that, before the pandemic hit, they were doing a lot of work, a lot of after school programs, and there were a lot of children's going into the brewer stadium where they were tutoring kids, and it was like a little bit of a daycare camp for kids. So maybe reaching out to them and seeing what type of partnership maybe we can build with them, I think would be good.
Yes,
Great idea.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Maybe
Councilwoman
it's-
Guardado. That's a good idea.
Yeah, maybe especially now that I know that none of us want to think about this, but spring break is around the corner at this point, which I don't want to think about that. But I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of families that would definitely benefit from that.
Those are great suggestions. So any other comments? Well, this was for information only, so thank you so much, Cynthia. Great presentation.
Thank you.
So our next item is 13, Historic Preservation Conservation Easement Release for the OIC. Alan will be presenting. We have a number of speakers So after Alan, we'll have the speakers.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee. I do have with me up here Ms. Michelle Dodds, who's the city's Historic Preservation Officer. This agenda item before you is part one of 3 parts that will be on the full council agenda on February 3rd that have to do with redeveloping the OIC site. So this one is the conservation easement, which is what the subcommittee hears, but on the full council agenda on the 3rd, in addition to this item, you'll also have a proposed text amendment to the downtown code warehouse district height to allow a proposed height of 285 feet as part of the redevelopment project, and also a rezoning case to remove the HP zoning overlay on this particular parcel as well. So all 3 of those matters will be on the council agenda on the 3rd for the full council to discuss and debate. But for today's meeting, this is just the conservation easement removal. That's what's on the agenda here. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Michelle Dodds, who's going to walk us through the presentation and the merits on this particular case. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, here you see a old photograph of the Arizona Hardware Supply Company building, now known as the OIC building today. It was constructed in 1920, and a second edition was added, second story was added in 1922. It was added to the National Register in 1985 and the Phoenix Register in 1990. It's significant for its early 20th century warehouse architecture and also for its role in railroad commerce. If we were to be nominating it to the register today, we would also include in its significance the role that OIC has played in the building in its association with the African American community, as they have been in the building since 1968. This next photograph shows the building as it appears today. It still, even though some modifications have been made to it, it still conveys its significance as an early 20th century warehouse. It is located at 15 to 39 East Jackson Street. And back in 1998, OIC had requested grant funds, just shy of $5,000 for roof repairs of the building. And at that time, any grant funds awarded up to $10,000 required a 15-year conservation easement on the building. And then in 2007, they were back for another grant for additional roof repairs. And again, it was $5,000, but again, we still had the up to $10,000. It required a 15-year conservation easement. So a total of 30 years is on the property as conservation easement, and that would expire in March of 2028.
Ms. Chair,
Yes, please.
Michelle, could you explain what a conservation easement is?
Oh, absolutely, Council Member Williams and subcommittee. So we can't just give people money for their rehabilitation of the building. It requires us to get something in exchange. And so what we get in exchange is a conservation easement. And that conservation easement adds an extra layer of protection, protecting the building during the term of the easement, so preventing demolition of the building or inappropriate changes to the building. The building is also on the Phoenix Register, so we have our normal design review process, but as I know, the council is aware that those are just 1-year delays of demolition, and with a conservation easement, council can also decide not to allow the demolition during the term of the easement. Also, there are some things that require a building permit and some that do not, and so our design review process is limited to things that require a building permit, where a conservation easement, anything on the exterior, any changes would require our review. And so basically, it's a higher level of protection. And this next slide just shows that in addition to the grant funds from Historic Preservation Bond Funds, our Community Development Block Grant project has, over the years, invested over $620,000 in the building. And those are all for roof repairs and other improvements. Staff is recommending denial of this request for a number of reasons. We are concerned about the precedent it sets and others that may come in and also request removal of their conservation easement. And so we also are concerned that it will open the door to, the changes that are proposed will, as Alan explained, will also, the building will no longer be eligible for the register. It would be delisted from the National Register. You do have a letter in your packet basically stating that from the State Historic Preservation Office. And also, I know our aviation department, if development is allowed to go to the height proposed, then that has concerns for safety at the airport. And so staff is really concerned and recommends denial. It went to the Historic Preservation Commission, and they didn't support the removal of the conservation easement. They were also concerned about the precedent it might set. And so what they recommended is that the terms of the easement be changed to allow the expiration date to go to January 1st of 2022, with the caveat that the owner repay the historic preservation grant funds plus an additional 10% interest. And they also went along with a suggestion from the OIC's council or the LLC, the owner's council, that a new 30-year conservation easement be placed on the property for the 3 remaining walls that will be there if the project is approved and moves forward. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? Okay, well, let's turn to our speakers then. Nick Wood is the attorney on this case, I believe, and so if we could set the clock for 4 minutes for him, the other speakers will have 2 minutes. So Nick, are you online?
I am, Madam Chair. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, Nick Woods, Woman 1, Arizona Center, and I represent Thunderbird Legacy Group, as well as Mr. Gene Blue. You heard Michelle speak about the history of the building and about preserving history, and that's what this case is all about. This case is all about preserving history. OIC, being an outgrowth of the civil rights movement back in the 60s, was created by former Councilman Good, who tragically passed away 2 weeks ago, as well as many leaders in the African American community. The purpose behind it is to help people help themselves, help people who have no job, no money, no home, no hope. In the 53 years that Mr. Blue and OIC has been helping this community and helping a demographic in this community that needed more help than anyone else in this community, they have 65,000 graduates and they have 47,000 job placements. That's an immeasurable contribution to the history of this community. The important thing is when you look at this building and you look at all of the other buildings that are quote unquote historically relevant or have historic preservation designations on them, they're all named after somebody or some organization. You know, the Knipe House, Sarah Pemberton House, the Neal House, Lewis Emerson House, Charles Pugh House. These are all people who contributed to our history. Well, I challenge anyone to suggest that there's another organization that contributed more to our history and where we are today than the people who they've helped in OIC and Gene Blue. The important thing is we're able to preserve them going forward for another 53 years. Mr. Blue will speak in a few minutes, and his daughter Dalen is ready to step up and take over the organization and take it for another 50 years. But to do that, they need money. You know, people talk about, well, you know, there's money you can find someplace else to preserve a building. Why can't you find money? Why can't you? Well, all these people who showed up at these hearings from the historic preservation community who don't seem to care too much about the people who are served by OIC, no one's writing a check. There are no funds available. There is an African-American group out of, which is my client, Thunderbird Legacy, out of San Francisco, out of Washington, D.C., and locally here. And they are the ones who are going to provide funding for OIC, which is a 501c3 organization, going forward. They'll receive 49% of the profits of this particular project, and that will sustain them into the coming decades. And Mr. Blue will tell you that if this project does not go forward and cannot be built, okay, which of course it can't, so long as this easement is there today, so long as the HP designation is there today, which must be removed, essentially OIC will die. It cannot go forward. And that's why I'm doing this. I have, during my professional career, I have dedicated myself to historic preservation. You know, the Lures, the professional building, which is now the Hilton Garden Inn, the Barrister building, the Biltmore Resort. I put the historic landmark designation on it. I did the preservation for the Taliesin West for the Frank Lloyd Wright Foundation, and a whole host of others over and over and over again. So I challenge anyone to suggest that a roof and a wall is more important than this organization and how important this organization has been and will continue to be to this community. And with that, Madam Chair, I guess my time is up. Thank you.
Whoops, sorry, I was on mute. Thank you. Are there any questions from Mr. Wood? Okay, I'm going to go down the speaker list then as they were submitted to me. The next speaker will be David Domi. Are you there, David?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and the rest of the council members. I appreciate the time. I'm calling in support of this wonderful project, and because of our partnership with OIC and Gene Blue. Chicans por la Causa, like OIC, has been around since the late 60s, serving our community. And as a colleague and a leader of a nonprofit, understanding the challenges it is to maintain, and it's been even drawn out more with this pandemic going on we're all dealing with. This is the way that nonprofits are moving towards, to be as self-sufficient as possible. More than ever, our communities that we serve, communities of color primarily, we serve everybody. But during this movement now of really putting focus on social equity and opportunities, but at the same time, you know, I just dropped off on my Greater Phoenix Economic Council board meeting as well. This project will bring jobs. This project will help this organization continue, as Chicans por la Causa has done as well, to continue our serve these communities. We partnered with OIC to help with the bus contracts with the city of Phoenix, and have done a great job of making sure that opportunities for our communities are there and being made priority and being paid attention to. This project will be an example. It will be a jewel that Phoenix will be able to point to, that how do we work, especially in this movement of social equity, and whether you want to throw on the BLM movement, whatever, but this is something that we all strive to. We're trying to make our communities be able to control their own destinies, do projects like others, and I think this would be a great project for the city of Phoenix and the council to support and make a difference for all of our communities. Thank you, Chairman.
Chairwoman, I think you may be muted.
I am. I apologize. I'll never get the hang of this, I swear. The next speaker, Reginald Walton. Are you online?
Good morning.
Oh,
Yes,
good.
ma'am. Good Chair and to the committee. I want to approach this from the idea of history. You're talking about historic preservation. We're talking about the denial or the recommended denial of an entity that helps people. It is interesting that history will record how the vote goes today. And do we want to be on the side of history that says that a $10,000 price tag for 30 years, which I'm sorry, that is patently unfair and was patently unfair. I believe that we have to take a look at how we approach and how we want history to see us. Mr. Blue has given his life to the betterment of people and to the betterment of this city. The Arizona OIC is a vital vein of this city, and I believe that as we are here today to make a decision, that we will be judged by history in the way in which the vote goes. And so I'm in support of this project. I believe that Mr. Blue and the Thunderbird Group have done their due diligence. I also believe that the Federal Aviation Administration, which oversees the airport, has already given them clearance for it to go to that height. And so I don't understand what the issue is. All right. Thank you so very much. That's my.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Jean Blue. Welcome, Jean. Is he on the line?
Yes, he is. I think he needed to unmute.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, good morning. This is Gene Blue. I think I'm unmuted now.
Yes, you are. We can hear you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so very much, and thank you for this opportunity to reveal and, in some cases, rehearse the services that we have provided as an organization to the city of Phoenix. My name has been mentioned many times as giving much for this project and for the 65,000 plus people that we've served. I do not seek recognition for the work that we've done because our mission is to help others help themselves. I think that the recognition and should be given to those who've benefited from the work that the OIC staff has done to make things possible for them. Our luminaries certainly include the Chief of Police, numerous council members, and we've all really worked to help them help themselves and help the city of Phoenix. I do not seek any recognition or any kind of remuneration for the approval of this project. It needs to be approved. It needs to be done so that we can continue to help others help themselves. We need the flow of funds. The dollars from federal and other areas have been decreased or diminished or deleted. And this project will help us to help ourselves, which is our mission. We also will be helping the city of Phoenix in the provision of jobs, the provision of wages and taxes. And we thank you for giving us the opportunity to serve the city of Phoenix. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is the Honorable Reginald Walton. Is Reginald on the line?
Chairwoman, it does not appear that he is.
Okay, thank you. He's probably busy at the legislature. Our next speaker is Bill Shield. Bill, are you on the line?
I am on the line. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm Bill Shield, 301 West Linwood Street, and I'm a member of the Historic Preservation Commission, and I want to advocate for the HP Commission recommendation on this item. Part of our responsibility as a commission is to problem solve, and that's what we tried to do with our motions last month. We felt strongly that revoking the HP easement as requested would set a terrible precedent and essentially end the historic grant program as we know it. Why would the city give grants to save a historic property if the grant could be returned at any time and the easement revoked? But we also realized the importance of OIC to the community and saw that the way the two separate easements were stacked upon each other 14 years ago seems a bit inequitable. So we recommend modifying the HP easement, now scheduled to extend through 2028, in a way to allow the project to go forward next year while also protecting the HP ordinance and specifically our HP grant program. Specifically, we want the second easement to be modified so the 15-year period begins when the second grant was actually provided in 2007 and thus can expire in 2022, allowing project construction to go forward 11 months from now. In conclusion, the Commission recognized the contribution OIC has made to the greater community over the last 50 years and the strong support for this project. We looked for a way to preserve our HP grant program and easement program, which has served the city well. We came up with a compromise to address the easement that could have delayed development until 2028. And so as a commission, we urge you to support our recommendation. Thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Actually, I have a question of Alan or Michelle. If we approved it to 2022, could they start submitting their building permits and going through the process? I know they're anxious to begin submittals.
Ms. Dodds is going to go ahead and answer that question for you.
Okay, thank you.
Chairwoman, members of the subcommittee, what the Chapter 8 of the zoning ordinance states that's the historic preservation ordinance, and it states that, you know, before issuance of a building permit, that they have to refer them to the Historic Preservation Office because of the historic preservation overlay. It really doesn't say anything about starting the review of their plans. It's been a policy of the city to have that review prior to starting that development process. But there are ways with certain recognition from the property owner that they can be aware of doing something at risk. However, with the designation, if they were to be successful in all three of their requests, they could file well, let me go with the Historic Preservation Commission's recommendation, which I'm crossing over to another item, but the designation itself, the Historic Preservation Commission did not support removal. And so if council did not remove the HP overlay, then they could go ahead and file their request for demolition, and there'd be a 1-year wait of demolition. However, during that 1-year wait, you know, the historic preservation overlay is still there. And so you have the issue of there would still be review. If they start that review, staff would still have to comment on whether things were or were not appropriate in terms of that being still on the register. So it's a little complicated.
Yeah.
But once it's demolished, once the building's demolished, then staff would initiate with the commission the removal of the HP overlay. So it's a little complex, and I'm not sure I answered that question well, but
No, thank you. I think you point out that it is complex, so I appreciate that.
Madam
If we can go on.
Chair, this is Alan. If I
Yes.
can just add a little bit to that.
Sure.
We have been asked to look into, could we process those? And that is a question we are exploring with the law department, as it relates to the overall HP Commission recommendation, as Michelle explained it, which is that it, the overlay would stay in place. They could file for their demolition and do the 1-year stay, and the conservation easement would also then expire to coincide with that. They'd be processing everything, and then those two things would kick in, and then we could issue permits right after that. And so that's a question we are exploring with the law department to have an answer for the full council discussion on this item on the 3rd.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Mr. Chair,
Oh, yes,
Mr.
Vice Mayor?
Alan, what year then would they be able to start? If legal approves it?
Madam Chair, Vice Mayor Williams, I'm sorry, could you repeat that question?
You said you're asking legal if you could amend that, and I assume that means they could start sooner. Is that true? And if so, what year? When?
Madam Chair, Vice Mayor Williams, what we are seeking guidance from the law department is, as it relates to the way the city typically processes these types of applications where there's an HP overlay on it, that 1-year stay and demolition is typically a time, the reason that the protection is there from a historic preservation standpoint is to try and work with the property owner to see if someone else can come in and buy the property to preserve that. And so we don't process, all of their items while they're doing that. That is something that they have to, wait for that 1 year to expire, then they could go through that process. What we're asking the law department is, could we legally do that concurrent, which is what the HP Commission, request is, and Mr. Lesota has made that request as well on behalf of some of the HP interests that he represents, and I know he's one of our speakers, and I think he will talk about that as well.
I also have the question, when you say demolish, if I was told they were keeping the walls, is that true?
Madam Chair,
maybe
Vice
truly
Mayor Williams,
demolition.
they are proposing to keep 3 of the existing walls and build up from there.
I have seen that in London along their streets, and it's quite amazing what they can do. They keep the facade. I call it scaffolding behind, and then build a whole new building behind it. So I am assuming that's what they're proposing to do here, with behind 3 walls. I'd like to see this go faster, I guess, is my thing. I think we want to keep OIC alive and well, and this will do it, then I'm all for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Tim Lesota. Tim, are you there?
I'm here, Madam Chair, and thank you. Good morning to you and the members of the committee.
Good morning.
And I'm representing the Arizona Preservation Foundation in this matter, and we do indeed support the Historic Preservation Commission recommendation. I know it's been mentioned already about that this would be a precedent setter. If this went forward without that HP recommendation, it would set precedent. I don't know how you'd tell anybody in the future who has a conservation easement applicable and comes up with the money to repay it that they cannot also get out of their conservation easement, which I think it's accurate to say it would destroy the program as we know it. There's also, briefly I'll mention, as Ms. Dodds did, the State Historic Preservation Office and their very powerful letter discussing in no uncertain terms what this would mean if this went forward without, and when I say when this went forward, I mean without the HP recommendation being adopted. So we do think that if the HP recommendation were adopted, in our opinion at least, that would take care of the concerns mentioned by the State Historic Preservation Office because of the particulars of this case. There are some reasons to accept that compromise, and we think that it would honestly preserve the program and it would provide a path forward to the applicant. It is true, as was mentioned earlier by the planning director, that we have asked that, you know, it's our position that this matter could be sped up and it could be done legally. Obviously, the details would be worked out, but that would be our request also, that the applicant could get down to business with this project as soon as possible. We think that the Historic Preservation Commission recommendation at the end of the day solves a lot of problems, and hopefully it does for the applicant also. And we would recommend that. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Donna Rayner. Is Donna on?
Yes.
Hey, welcome.
Thank you very much. Yes, this is Dr. Donna Reiner, 2501 North 8th Street, Phoenix, Arizona. As a former chair and member of the commission, I have to say that I think it should highly, and maybe one more highly, recommended to accept the Preservation Commission's recommendation. And why? Because our program here in Phoenix has been nationally recognized for 35 years. And as it's been continually mentioned, you start picking at it, it goes down the tubes. And frankly, at the present time, I make my living through historic preservation. I have a degree in historic preservation. It is important. It is vital to the economy. No one is objecting or wanting to even negate anything that OIC has done in its history here in Phoenix. It is a fabulous organization. What we have been concerned about is the building. And yes, Vice Mayor Williams, they want to keep 3 walls. The problem is the conceptuals, in my opinion, and based on the examples that they have shown, the examples they showed were actually quite nice. And when one can get a certificate of approval, that means the historic manner of the building can continue. But what they propose is an abomination. It's facadectomy. It's awful. It could be better. I have been in Winnipeg and seen gorgeous buildings that were built behind the facade. According to the conceptuals, and I walk by this building lots and lots, I wouldn't see the building.
Thank you. Is Nick Wood still on the line? Nick?
Yes, he is.
I'm here, Madam Chair. I'm here, Madam Chair, yeah.
Oh, okay. I just want to ask of you as the applicant, does 1 year work for you if they pushed or reduced the time for the HP? Would that work?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I will say, unlike other lawyers who equivocate, I will say yes with some clarification and qualification. I appreciate the effort, and this was Mr. Shields' idea, to change the expiration date for the facade easement to basically, I'll call it February 1st or February 3rd of 2022. The question that I asked at the time, and I think Alan did a very good job, and so did Michelle, of explaining what happens in the year between the time that hopefully council does approve what we're asking and the time that the facade easement expires is that we don't lose any time in the development process. What that means is, number one, we're fine with the 1 year, with the change of the expiration to 1 year, provided that A, we can immediately apply for the issuance of the demolition permit, so that won't be rejected at the desk when we submit it. Number two, that we're able to process our preliminary site plan approval applications and have that go through to final approval by staff. Again, I don't think there's any regular timeline anymore because of COVID, but you know, you have an excellent staff and they do great work even under the interesting situation we have with COVID. But so as long as we can file it, process it, get it approved, then of course file for our final site plan approval, then file our construction drawings, and then file for our construction permits. And being able to do all of that during 2021, so that come February 3rd, February 4th of 2022, we can hit the ground running. We can basically come onto the site, begin removing the roof, begin removing the back wall, begin our excavation, the shoring up of the building, etc. The concern I have is the HP designation remaining on the property. Now, I know that's not before your committee, but you know me, I want to make sure everything is clear and on the table. Michelle correctly stated that, you know, once the demolition happens, even though it's only a partial demolition of the building, we're going to retain those 3 walls. Then the process would begin to remove the HP designation. I want to make sure that the HP designation doesn't somehow hold us up. And because the removal of the HP designation is going to take another 6 months. Basically, you have to apply, you have to go through the village planning committee again, you got to go through the historic preservation commission again, you have to go through planning commission again, you got to go through council again, because again, we're asking a second time to remove the HP designation. So we're going to probably ask the council to remove that, because really the purpose of the protections that are being proposed are all founded within found in the 4 corners of the facade easement. So the city retains the protections that are there. We will, of course, as promised, create a new facade easement once the building is completed and we have the new walls that are now renovated and all brick. We'll give the city a 30-year facade easement on those 3 walls so that they are preserved, because of course that's the whole purpose behind preserving those walls. And then, you know, there's also a stipulation regarding a bond by my client to preserve the building until they actually start construction and things like that. But I think, so I apologize, Madam Chair and members of the subcommittee, for my long-winded answer. But yes, I think it's a very viable compromise, subject to the things that we need to do within the coming years I just described. Thank you.
Thank you. And so then I turn back to you, Alan, and my understanding is you're still reviewing that with legal?
Madam Chair and members of the subcommittee, yes. I will add some clarity to what Mr. Wood's comments are, and I think the concern is that in a normal situation, even if we were to do an overlapping review process, which is what's being asked while the demolition stay is in place, we could do that review, but we wouldn't be able to issue any permits until the HP overlay zoning would be removed from the property. So even though their 1-year stay of demolition would be over, they would still have to wait to go through the rezoning process to remove the HP overlay before we could issue permits as the ordinance is written today. And so, you know, the overlap and that issue is what we are reviewing with the law department to see if there are some options that we could legally, you know, make work as it relates to the full breadth of these items on the February 3rd agenda, because today is just the conservation item.
Correct. All right, so I guess the question is, even though year would be up, it still might take another 6 months to get through the rezoning process to remove the HP, and that may be of concern to the applicant as well as OIC, correct?
Correct, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. If we assisted by initiating the HP removal, would that help?
Madam Chair.
As far as timing, I'm sorry, as far as timing.
Yeah, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, one of the items that we are talking about with the law department is you currently, what's coming forward as part of the package on February 3rd is a rezoning case to remove the HP. And so that's the HP commission is to not remove it and let it stay on there, but one of the options might be that the council continues that portion of the request, and then the council will be able to act on that, in a quicker manner than the 6-month removal process, at the conclusion of the February 2022.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to dominate with all the questions. Are there questions from the other subcommittee members?
Chairwoman, I have a
Yes.
question.
Yes,
Oh, Councilwoman,
thank you.
you raised your hand
Yeah.
first.
Thank you. Yeah, it just seems that well, first I just wanna say thank you to Mr. Blue for all of his hard work
Absolutely.
in this community. 100% respect everything that he's done in our community and everything that he will continue to do with this project. But it does seem to me that there are still a lot of unanswered questions in terms of what we can and what we can and what we cannot do. And I think that staff has brought a lot of valid concerns to this project. And at this point, I mean, I appreciate everything. I appreciate all the work, but I'm not sure that I feel comfortable voting on this today. Not because I'm against it. Just want to put that out in the universe that I'm not against this project. But I do think that there are a lot of questions that still need to be answered in terms of how do we move forward. Like I said, like I'm always about helping good projects move in a good pace. But I think that there are some clarifications in the impact to the safety and functionality of our airport, the actual investment of our city has put into this building, and the concerns brought forth by our historic preservation office as well. Again, I want to be supportive of this project. I want to make sure that we can move it forward and that we can make this happen. But I do think that there's a lot of concerns and questions, valid questions that I'm hoping that no one is really against this project, but I'm just hoping, that we can fix some of this stuff before we move it forward. And I would love to see if I had support of my colleagues so that we can continue it, so that we can figure out with staff, and I'm committed to helping move this forward, but if we can continue it and figure out the legalities and the issues, and then from there hoping to be able to move the project forward once all the questions were answered. Thank you, Chairwoman.
Oh, thank you. I thought I heard Councilman Garcia. Did you?
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think preserving the history of the OIC to me is priority. I think the legacy of people that have come through there and the work that's been done for civil rights and worker rights is really important. But part of that preservation to me is looking at the future. And I know today we're talking about the HP. I agree. I think it was Reverend Walton who said that deal that was made years back for $9,000 for the roof, whatever that was. I don't think it was fair in any way. I do think there's times that we make mistakes, and to hold someone for 30 years for that amount of money just doesn't seem fair. But I think the majority of questions, and I know that's not what we're talking about today, but I don't know if Nick can address them, are about the future. What's the building? Understand that there's a hotel there. There's other things that are going to happen there. And I don't know if the developers are there or the folks that are going to be holding the building, but I would want to know that that same legacy, the workers' rights, the civil rights will continue in this building. I think it's important that we have assurance that there's going to be fair wages moving forward. I think that's one of the things that we've realized through this pandemic, that, you know, essential workers, all workers, need to be appreciated. And I think with the historic value and traditions of this organization, it would be really important, as, you know, as the project moves forward and it gets completed, that that same legacy of fair wages, good jobs moves forward.
Thank you. I will turn to Mr. Wood to address the issue of the future.
Madam Chair, Councilman Garcia, several things. OIC will continue to be a tenant in this building, and they will operate their business there. With respect to the fair wage question, yes, we have made arrangements to make sure that that is in fact the case. In addition, I think if Mr. Blue is still on, you know, one of the charges that he gave us from the very beginning was because OIC, its very existence is about taking care of people and providing for people. And that's why, you know, the fair wage issue was front and center in the discussion, both with respect to operations at the hotel, operations at the restaurant, operations on the proposed downtown urban supermarket, and as well as under construction. So we have been discussing with the appropriate parties and has actually entered into an agreement as of this morning to assure that with respect to the hotel itself.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. Alan, I have a quick question with regards to continuing. I don't think we can continue it because everything is scheduled for the first council meeting in February. So I guess my question would be, and I know you're still researching with the law department, could we forward with no recommendation?
Madam Chair and committee members, yes, certainly the subcommittee could forward it with no recommendation. It is a matter that, because the other two items are publicly noticed text amendment or rezoning case, you know, it has already been advertised and the site's been posted for the council hearing on the 3rd. So it will show up on that agenda, even if you guys continue this item for the other two matters, and it will be up to the council, you know, the full council at that point to decide what they wish to do with the continuance, and unless the applicant is willing to, you know, request a continuance of all the matters until a later date where this could be contemplated at a future subcommittee and then taken up by the full council.
Thank you. It is a struggle, and I really do appreciate everything that Mr. Blue has done for the city of Phoenix, for the state of Arizona, and his program is very, very important. And I think that's the factor that's overriding. Any other thoughts from the subcommittee members? I think maybe we should try to make a recommendation. This is so powerful. I know OIC has done so many wonderful things, and I want to make sure we're really preserving that history. Any other thoughts from other council, subcommittee members?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I, I really want to see this go forward, and I want staff to continue to work closely to find a legal way so that when the removal happens, it can be expedited for construction. I think OIC needs it. I think GD deserves it, but I'm hesitant to make a motion other than to forward this on to council with no recommendation, just noting that we want staff to pursue legal options.
Thank you. So you want to make that in a form of a motion?
I move that we move this forward to council to be heard in conjunction with the others with no recommendation, but direct staff to continue to work closely to expedite this and find a legal way to make it happen sooner.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, if I could just get clarification real quick, so I make sure that staff understands what the subcommittee desire is, if that, the vote goes that way. Vice Mayor, you are wanting us to find a way to do the overlapping review pursuant to the HP Commission recommendations so that the review and processing of the things within the department can happen concurrent with in this case, the conservation easement that would expire in February of 2022. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
I don't want to see them have to wait an extra 6 months or more to begin to get all that document signed off on. It could be prepared ahead of time and a notation in there that when that happens, it's immediately go for them.
Thank you. I'm going to support the motion, but I do want to make sure on the record that we need to protect OIC. That is, to me, the most important thing. So with that, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone?
Chairwoman,
Yes.
I'm not going to be supporting this right now, just because I think I think it's a great project. And I continue to say the same. I think this can be a great project, but I do think that there are a lot of unanswered questions, a lot of legal concerns that we need to deal with. A lot of folks that would like to see some, see some things cleared up before we actually support this. I support the cause, I support what's happening, but I think I am not comfortable supporting when there's so many questions that have not been answered. But that does not mean that I would not be supportive in the future after we work with staff and we figure out some of these challenges. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairwoman,
So, go, Councilman Garcia.
Yeah, I would just, I would love, Nick had an answer to what I asked earlier. I'd just appreciate if we're also able to preserve the values of the OIC moving forward with the tenants or the folks that are going to be in the building. So if we could get some more information of how that's going to be held, I would appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. So all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
Okay, it passes 3-1. Thank you. Our next item is 14, and this is consideration of a citizen petition related to the proposed ordinance establishing the Office of Accountability and Transparency. Chris Meyer, I believe,
Madam
is here.
Chair, good morning.
Yes.
It's Tony Macarone, and Chris Meyer is on the phone as well. If I can
Okay.
introduce this item.
Oh, please do.
So, Madam Chair and subcommittee members, in November, we received a citizen petition from a resident, Mr. Stanley Bates, and he requested that the City Council refer the proposed ordinance establishing the Office of Accountability and Transparency with all proposed budgetary appropriations in connection therewith to a vote of the qualified electors of the City of Phoenix at a general or a special municipal election. So that was Mr. Bates' citizen petition that he submitted. And as you all know, as subcommittee members, citizen petitions come to this subcommittee to be heard. Mr. Bates is on the line today, if you would like to hear from him, and then we have a staff recommendation in the report as well.
Thank you very much. Yeah, why don't we go ahead, Mr. Bates? Are you online?
I am online. Good
Perfect.
morning, Madam Chairwoman,
We hear
Vice
you.
Mayor Williams, and members of the subcommittee. My name is Stan Bates, and I live at 4243 West Ironwood Drive in Phoenix. I believe that the petition speaks for itself. However, I believe the Office of Accountability and Transparency is important to the entire city. As such, I believe the residents should have a say concerning the Office of Accountability and Transparency, and I would like to see that go to a vote. If there's any questions, I'd be glad to answer them at this time.
Any questions? We also have another speaker, Walt Gray.
I had a question, Madam Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize, Councilman Garcia.
Mr. Bates, are you supportive of the Office of Accountability and Transparency?
Council Member Garcia, I'm not opposed to the Office of Accountability and Transparency. I just want it to go as a vote to the entire citizens so that it can be established.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is Mr. Gray on the line?
One second, Chairwoman.
Thank you.
He is on.
Hello? Hello?
Mr. Gray?
Hello? Yes, I'm here. Can
We
you
hear
hear
you.
me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, very good. I'm sorry. First, I'd like to say, if you just read the petition, it's very obvious that Mr. Bates is opposed to the Office of Accountability and Transparency. You know, and the City Council is divided. The City Council is divided, voted against the Office of Accountability and Transparency, and the city is divided. There are good parts of the city that are opposed and agree with Mr. Bates. There's a vast part of the inner city that is very supportive of police reform, including the Office of Accountability and Transparency. Maybe we just need some cooling off time. There's a lot of questions that still have not been answered. And the ad hoc committee, their work is held up now. You know, and nobody's discussing the issues that the ad hoc committee developed. And there's a lot of unanswered questions, and maybe we just need cooling off time, and over time, not getting all emotional about it, answer some of these questions and better define. You know, we have Councilman Waring and Councilman DeCiccio. They think 90% of the city supports the police, and you know that's far from true. But they probably honestly believe that, based on what the areas they represent. But we need clear information, and maybe we have to go to the vote, but certainly not in this emotional time when we're so divided. Although it's very concerning, you know, that we must move forward on reforming the police. We've had 7 police shootings in January. That's a record pace.
Thank you, Mr. Gray. Okay, I turn to staff recommendation.
Thank you, Madam Chair and subcommittee members. As we outlined in the report, staff recommends that the subcommittee not recommend referral of an ordinance related to the Office of Accountability and Transparency to the voters as requested by the citizen petition, because the City Council did not adopt the proposed ordinance. The item was considered, as you will recall, at your November 18, 2020 formal city council meeting, and the motion to approve the item failed by a vote of 4 to 5.
So we have no ordinance to forward to the voters. So if, in essence, the petition as submitted is void, actually. Correct? Am I saying that correctly?
That's correct, Chairwoman, and I would defer also to City Attorney Chris Meyer if he had anything else to add. Chris?
Thank you, Tony. No, I don't have anything else to add. I think it's been discussed. The petition requested that the proposed ordinance be forwarded to voters, but the council did not approve the ordinance. So there isn't something that the council has come to consensus on to refer to voters at this time.
Okay, thank you. Are there any comments or a motion?
Motion to move staff recommendation to deny.
I didn't hear that. I apologize, Councilman.
Motion staff recommendation to deny the citizen petition.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
Madam Chair, can I ask that for an amendment to that due to the fact that it's null and void because there is no ordinance? Will Councilman Garcia agree?
Yes, so
Perfect.
full staff recommendation.
Okay,
Okay. All right, thank you.
so can I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It carries unanimously. Next is call to the public. Do we have any members?
Chairwoman, we do not have any members for call to the public.
Thank you. Next would be our future agenda items. Do we have any requests? I see 2 for February the 17th. Are there any additional requests? Hearing none, we are then adjourned, and we will see everyone in February. Thank you.